Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. RCMP in Manitoba have arrested a man who was the focus of a dangerous person alert for Pimicikamak Cree Nation on Thursday. Police were on the hunt for 39-year-old Joshua Papanikis following a report that he had entered a home, struck a 24-year-old male resident with a hammer, and then abducted a 20-year-old female. At approximately 11:15 a.m. today, RCMP say information was received that led officers to a residence in the community where Papanikis was taken into custody without incident. The 20-year-old victim was also located safely in the residence with minor injuries and taken to the nursing station as a precaution. RCMP say over the past 24 hours, the Manitoba and Saskatchewan RCMP deployed multiple units, including a specialized search plane, and dozens of officers from across both provinces were in Pimicikamak Cree Nation to search. Police say Papanikis and the victim were known to each other and that this is considered an act of intimate partner violence. Battery recycling plant TerraPure is facing federal charges for alleged illegal dumping into the St. Lawrence Seaway. The company announced a recent spill in the city of St. Catherine, neighboring Kahnawake Mohawk territory. The spill and alleged dumping is causing concern of environmental impacts for the Mohawk Council of Kahnawake. Savannah Craig has more.
Battery recycling plant TerraPure is facing 52 charges for violating the Fisheries Act. The Mohawk Council of Kahnawake only found out about the alleged dumping 3 months later in the media.
It's very concerning, very, very concerning, especially within the larger context where Kahnawake is seeking to reacquire lands. So this becomes a very big issue.
TerraPure is located on land the council is seeking to reclaim, creating concerns for the impacts on Kahnawak's environment. TerraPure has confirmed that a new spill occurred on January 29th. In an email to APTN News, TerraPure says approximately 65,000 liters of water spilled inside their facilities. 10,000 liters of water flowed outside, with 1,000 liters flowing to the storm sewer.
We don't know what the liquid was. We don't know what the impacts are.
The council says this will not affect Kahnawak's drinking water.
Our intakes go under the seaway and into the river. So we draw fresh water from the river, not the seaway.
But Chief Yahihio Delil says concerns of environmental impacts are still there.
We're waiting for the thaw to come in so we can get access to more of the water as well as the lands. But we are definitely setting up the system to start rolling out a very extensive environmental assessment.
The alleged illegal dumping of sulfate and lead into the St. Lawrence Seaway occurred between November 2020 and December 2023. 38 charges have also been put forward against the city of St. Catherine for violating the same law. The council is now meeting with St. Catherine, hoping for better communication.
The mayor seemed to be a little bit more at ease after having spoken with us, realizing that we're basically on the same page.
Quebec needs to come to the table now and really sit with Kahnawake Ono, Mohawk Council of Kahnawake, to explore long-term sustainable solutions for the betterment of all people that are involved, their citizens and ours.
APTN News reached out to Quebec's Ministry of Environment. We did not receive a comment before our deadline. We also requested an interview with representatives of St. Catherine. The city did not offer anyone for an interview. Savannah Craig, APTN National News, Kahnawake, Mohawk Territory.
The public hearing on Bill 1, the proposed Quebec Constitution, got underway yesterday. The proceedings took a tense turn when an incident of disrespect targeted chiefs who had traveled long distances to be heard. Our reporter Kim Sullivan witnessed the scene and has more details on what happened.
Yesterday at the National Assembly was consultation and public hearings for Bill 1 in Quebec, which is a law about the Quebec Constitution, a law that they say will be the law of all laws and recognizing Quebec people as a nation. The AFNQL was here to be able to speak at the public hearing. It came with multiple chiefs in solidarity, but one was refused entry into the room due to his sacred eagle staff.
Aujourd'hui peut créer un précédent au niveau de la réglementation de l'Assemblée nationale.
C'est toujours ce qu'on nous répond, monsieur.
En vain, je veux vous le dire,
en tout respect, c'est toujours le même argument qu'on nous répond. on peut créer des précédents. C'est justement une occasion historique de pouvoir changer les choses ensemble.
Regional Chief of the AFNQL, Francis Veropol, as well as Wendage's Chief Pierre Picard, said that this was not only deceiving, it was also insulting.
Il y en a qui ont voyagé aller-retour 16, 15, 14 heures de voiture pour venir ici. Et on les refuse parce qu'on apporte notre bâton secret qui nous donne cette force, cette bienveillance, ce respect, même pour nous-mêmes, mais envers l'institution et les gens qui sont à l'intérieur. Donc, c'est extrêmement décevant.
Et j'ajouterais à la déception l'insulte.
Grand Chief of Kahnawake, Cody Daibo, did add that this is not only symbolic, but it should be welcome into arenas of discussion like this one.
We're taught whenever we interact with colonial or foreign governments that we have to go in dressed as who we are supposed to be so that they know who they're talking to at the end of the day. And I mean, that was cut out. Luckily, I guess ribbon shirts are okay, so.
The chief that was refused entry into the room is Chief Sipi Flamand of the community of Manawan. He says that this law is anchored into systemic racism and that Quebec is being quite headstrong trying to continue to push it.
Ce sont des objets sacrés qui nous sont chers, qui nous portent nos valeurs. C'est notre histoire. C'est notre territoire, c'est toute notre philosophie vient de là.
It's the president of the commission that did not allow Chief Sipi Flamand into the room. Political parties were actually welcoming of this sacred object and even wanted to put it to vote, but that was refused.
Une commission ne peut pas aller à l'encontre des règles de base établies par l'Assemblée nationale.
Adding fuel to the fire, Minister of Justice of Quebec, Simon Jolin Barrette, accused Regional Chief Francis Veropol of lying.
Vous dites plusieurs choses que j'ai dites sur des propos qui sont inexacts et qui me sont attribués, et vous savez très bien que c'est pas ça que j'ai dit.
Manon Massé and Zol Zanetti from the party Québec Solidaire actually said that they were quite disturbed by the events and had this to say.
D'un point de vue de diplomatie, là, je trouvais ça petit et scandaleux.
Sacred objects are being more and more recognized and accepted in Canadian Parliament as part of an approach focused on reconciliation and respect for spiritual rights. Chief of Lac-Simon, Lucien Webananik, says that this should also happen in Quebec.
Ils préfèrent voir ces objets-là dans leur musée. Hein? Ça n'a pas sa place dans les musées. Ça appartient aux Premières Nations. Et c'est un grand signe de respect qu'on permet ces objets-là sacrés de permettre leur entrée dans les différents parlements au pays. C'est ce qui manque au Québec.
For APTN National News, I'm Kim Sullivan in Quebec City.
Thanks, Kim. You can find more on that story on our website, aptnnews.ca. With limited infrastructure in many First Nations, finding resources to help unhoused relatives battling addictions becomes a hard task. But in northern Manitoba, one community is finding creative ways to tackle the issue. With more, here's T.R. Wheatley.
Come on, Nugget Power!
It may look like an average night in for many, but being inside a safe space and cooking dinner wasn't always possible for these members of the Norway House Cree Nation. Robert Crate is one of about 25 clients here on any given day. The 41-year-old father's been homeless for nearly 5 years and is trying to kick his addiction problem.
I lost my family and had a high-paying job before, and because of this addiction I had in my life, addicted to drugs and alcohol, and it really took a lot out of my life. I used to stay in the streets in Winnipeg and Thompson. I would sleep anywhere because a drug would take me to a dark place. You know, I had a hard time forgiving myself, but I thank God for bringing me to this place where it gives me hope.
These trailers were once temporary living quarters for construction workers building infrastructure on this reserve. Instead of removing the trailers when crews left, leadership turned this into a 32-bed facility they call the Safe House Initiative. Councillor Dion Clark holds the health portfolio for the band. He says Norway House has rampant issues of addictions and homelessness.
Detox is 10 days. Treatment centers are usually 28 days. We don't have a time limit. We'll work with people, and when they're ready to get back on their feet and move on, they can move on when they're ready.
Unlike a homeless shelter, everyone is given their own private room and don't have to leave during the day. The safe house opened over a year ago as a pilot initiative funded by Chief and Council.
We only worked with a small group at that time. It was like 14 people. And more than half of them got jobs right away. And they were stabilized, they sobered up on their own, detoxed on their own.
But in order to sober up, mental and spiritual health needs to become a priority, says Community Wellness Coordinator Susan Albert.
You know, bring therapists to our community, to bring psychiatrists, to bring psychologists, and a lot of that time we don't get that help. And so what we do is that we try to find our answers.
And that's where support workers like Susan Meenow play vital roles in this house.
So we're more or less trying to work with all the other departments in Norway House, like the community wellness, harm reduction. We're trying to bring everything together to try and make it happen for the people that are staying here.
Bringing cultural programming and healing to them. This safe house doesn't get any government funding directly. Proposals have been rejected by the province and the feds. But it's important to this community, as most folks here donate time, food, and even clothes to help their fellow band members like Robert Crate, who are grateful for the hand up.
We made new friends here, and so we have here is one another to be healing.
As he works toward his sobriety so his children can get their father back. TR Wheatley, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Nice story. Thanks, TR. It's been a wild week for hockey star Gavin McKenna. We'll bring you the latest twist after the break. Welcome back. The felony assault charge laid against top NHL prospect Gavin McKenna earlier this week in University Park, Pennsylvania, has been dropped. McKenna was charged with felony assault, simple assault, disorderly conduct, and harassment by local police after an alleged bar fight last Saturday night. McKenna, who is 18, was alleged to have broken an older man's jaw in 2 places. That charge has been withdrawn, but McKenna still has to answer to the lesser charges on February 11th. McKenna plays for the Penn State Nittany Lions, a Division I team in the U.S. NCAA. He is a member of the Trondequitchin First Nation in Yukon. He's considered to be the #1 pick in this year's NHL rookie draft. Data collection on the 2026 Canada census is starting early in the country's northern and remote communities. As APTN's Justin Hardy tells us, this is coming months before southern households receive their census letters.
Households in select northern and remote communities will soon have a census invitation letter delivered to them. These are coming months ahead of those being delivered to southern households in May. Centre for Indigenous Statistics and Partnerships Assistant Director Tim Leonard says this system makes the most sense for covering Canada's north.
We really want to access the communities that are hard to access. And if you have an ice road, if there's harder ways, if it's a flying community, we really want to be able to be and meet people in their homes to be able to do that data collection with them.
Letters will include instructions and a secure access code to complete the mandatory questionnaire online. Leonard says in-person help will also be available.
Of course, internet doesn't always work as reliable up north, we all know that. And so we do hiring, and we also go to people's households and knock on their doors and ask them to participate. And we will help facilitate that participation on the census with the respondent who's in the household.
The questionnaire will ask for basic information about everyone living in each household, as well as asking for some more in-depth data.
Housing conditions, employment, education, migration patterns, transportation, language used. These are all questions we've asked again and again every cycle. It just so happens in this cycle of 2026, we've added some new questions on homelessness and health for the very first time.
The questionnaire will be presented in 28 languages, including 15 Indigenous languages. Collected data will be used by communities, organizations, and government to plan and fund programs and services. Statistics Canada is still actively hiring staff to help with the census. Find out more on their website. Justin Hardy, APTN National News, Iqaluit.
It's budget day in the Northwest Territories with promises of billions in spending amid rising costs, growing deficits, a shrinking private sector, and increasing global pressures. Our reporter Charlotte Moore-Jacobs brings us some of the highlights.
The Northwest Territories' 2026-2027 budget poses similar spending pressures to years past. Finance Minister Carolyn Wozniak says as healthcare takes up nearly 1/3 of the territorial budget, there are big price tags that go along with medical travel, staffing issues, and the cost of delivering services across remote communities.
Medical travel has become such a huge cost driver, but it's not. That's the sort of the number side of it, because it is not a good client experience. It makes it so hard on the patients, which can then drive other healthcare costs if they're actually not able to heal in as efficient or as positive a way as possible, right?
Healthcare spending highlights include $3.1 million for 24/7 diagnostic and lab services in Yellowknife and $740,000 to permanently fund an 811 health advice line. Housing will see investment as the budget triples emergency shelter funding to $8.3 million total for facilities in Yellowknife, Hay River, Inuvik, and Fort Simpson, and hiring 5 staff for a new homelessness division within NWT Housing.
Houses and communities put $150 million over the last few years into improving housing in communities, because if people are in safe homes in their community, maybe they're not ending up in shelters. The money that's going into healthcare, it is an area that we can control. So it is an area that gets almost 1/3 of our budget. If people are healthy, then they're not going in.
The budget adds $8 million for wildfire response capacity and climate change risk mitigation, and plans to complete disaster recovery claims to the tune of $1.4 million. The GNWT acknowledges financial limits. One major infrastructure project alone can cost more than the territory's entire operating budget. Minister Wozniak says they are aligning themselves with Indigenous governments to appeal to Ottawa for federally funded projects like the Mackenzie Valley Highway and the Arctic Security Corridor.
The challenge to me is that if we acknowledge that as a territorial government with an operating budget of less than $3 billion, we're not building these things. Indigenous governments and landholders, their operating budgets are smaller than ours. They're not building these things. If we can make it easy for the federal government and say, here we are, we've all partnered up. Here's exactly how we would propose that you engage with us and work with us.
The territory's ability to make budget commitments relies heavily on Ottawa. 69 cents on every dollar in revenue comes from the feds through transfers and grants. But this year's surplus is slim, only $20 million, down from last year's $172 million. This is because the GNWT has increased its supplementary reserve to $210 million to cover unplanned expenditures like replacing lost Jordan's principal funding and disaster responses. The budget will now move to the Legislative Assembly MLAs for debate. Charlotte Moore-Jacobs, APTN National News, Yellowknife.
The Anishnabe Winter Games get underway in a couple of weeks. We'll hear from one of the organizers after the break. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. And according to Sarah Connors, Lilix, the cat, enjoys leisurely hanging around the Monstera plant. Thanks to Sarah for sending in the photo. For the chance to be our next photo of the day, send us a photo by email to share@aptn.ca. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the east coast, 4 below for Fredericton, cloudy and 0 for Halifax. -17 in Kuujjuaq, 7 below with snow in Nain. -8 for Montreal, 21 below under sunny skies for Val-d'Or. -12 for Sault Ste. Marie, 15 below and sunny for Ottawa. -13 for Thunder Bay, 11 below for Sioux Lookout. -14 for God's Lake, 19 below for Churchill. -7 and cloudy for Winnipeg, 2 below in Brandon. 0 for Regina, -1 for Saskatoon. -2 for Meadow Lake, 4 below for Buffalo Narrows. In northern Alberta, sunny and -13 for High Level, 14 below for Fort Chipewyan. +1 for Edmonton, sunny skies, and 12 for Lethbridge. 9 with showers for Vancouver and Victoria, 8 in Kamloops. 6 in Prince George, +1 for Dease Lake. minus 36 for Old Crow, 2 below for Whitehorse, minus 22 for Yellowknife, 29 below for Norman Wells, minus 30 for Sax Harbor and Pulatuck, minus 28 for Chesterfield, 40 below for Cambridge Bay, minus 33 for Resolute and Igloolik. Student athletes in some First Nations in Northern Ontario are getting ready for the annual Anishnabe Winter Games. The 3-day competition starts February 24th. Grades 4 to 8 students will head to White Dog to compete in sports like volleyball, broomball, and archery. A handful of communities will participate, including the host team, Grassy Narrows, Big Grassy River, and Waschagamus Bay First Nation, to name a few. Event lead Malcolm Roulette says he expects around 100 young athletes to attend. He says opportunities like this are important for fostering connection and friendship for kids growing up on isolated reserves. One winter game that is sure to pique interest is the water boil relay race, a nod to the numerous boil water advisories in the region.
It has like a cultural component to it, where it's like it's an outdoor event. Often it involves snowshoes, where it's kind of like a race, but back and forth, trying to get the supplies, what you need to make a fire. And so the goal is the team that makes a fire so that their water boils over first is the winner.
Okay, I hope we head out there for that event in particular. Kim Sullivan is in community for this week's episode of Nouvelle Nationale. Kim, looking great in Wendoge. What can we expect on the show tonight?
Hi, Dennis. The general consultation and public hearings on Quebec's Bill 1, which concerns the Quebec Constitution, took place yesterday. The bill is controversial, and many Indigenous leaders are voicing strong opposition. We'll have more on that for you tonight. We'll also have a candid interview and meeting session with Senator Michel Audette. The second part of that interview, 6:30 tonight. Join us.
Right on. Thanks, Kim. She's back here in less than 2 minutes. Nobel, Ontario's explosives manufacturing site, helped win 2 world wars and left permanent scars. The evidence is everywhere, even in the name, Gun Cotton Creek. Reporter Kenneth Jackson investigates how wartime industrial and government decisions poison land and water in a small Ontario town.
Everyone knows about this, but everyone actually has this sly look at, oh, DIL, eh? Or CIL. It's like it's not nefarious, but there's some sort of undercurrent of maybe there's something more here.
I think that there's a little bit more than what we're being told, to be honest. When you're dealing with tens of millions of pounds of explosives and chemicals, it has to go somewhere.
You can catch APTN Investigates War on the Land airing this Saturday right after APTN National News Weekend. It's all the time we have for your news on this Friday, February 6th. For news anytime, visit our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward. Marcy Miigwech, thanks for being with us. Have a great night.